There is a reason your attention landed here today, and it reaches far beyond coincidence. Long before this moment entered your awareness, invisible movements were already unfolding beneath the ordinary rhythm of your life. Quiet forces have been arranging circumstances you could not see, drawing separate experiences into a single point of convergence until they led you to this exact place at this exact time. You are standing at the edge of a profound energetic transition, whether you fully realize it yet or not. The day of July 6th is far more than another square on a calendar. It represents the final threshold before the powerful energy of the 77 portal fully awakens. If you have noticed a quiet pressure growing inside your heart, an unexplainable feeling in your intuition, or the persistent sense that reality itself is preparing to move in a different direction, trust that sensation instead of dismissing it. You have already entered the current. The movement has already begun around you. What follows is not simply information to entertain your mind. It has the potential to awaken something that has been patiently waiting inside you. If a calm inner voice is already whispering that these words somehow belong to you, honor that feeling. Allow yourself to anchor into this experience. Let your presence become intentional. Support this message. Leave a comment that reflects your willingness to be present, and subscribe not because it is routine, but because you are consciously deciding that you refuse to sleep through what is about to unfold. Transformations of this magnitude rarely arrive with dramatic announcements. They begin almost silently. Before the 77 portal fully opens, its influence introduces itself in whispers rather than explosions. It reaches you while your conscious defenses are lowered, appearing inside dreams where logic releases its grip, and deeper truth can finally speak without resistance. It slips into your awareness through meaningful coincidences that refuse to be explained away, through emotions that suddenly rise without an obvious cause, and through thoughts that seem less like products of your own mind and more like messages arriving from somewhere much older and wiser than your everyday thinking. Perhaps the past several days have left you feeling strangely restless, as though something familiar no longer fits comfortably inside your life. Maybe routines that once provided certainty now feel empty, leaving you disconnected from what used to define normal. Or perhaps you have experienced the opposite. Instead of confusion, there has been an almost unsettling clarity, as though invisible veils have fallen away and you can suddenly recognize illusions that once held remarkable power over you. Neither experience is a mistake. Neither signals that something has gone wrong. Both reveal that a deeper activation has already begun. The frequency connected to the 77 portal has been extending toward you long before today, carefully adjusting your energetic field, preparing every layer of your awareness for a greater alignment that cannot happen until the proper moment arrives. Yet preparation alone does not guarantee transformation. This is where many people unknowingly lose the opportunity standing directly before them. Countless individuals will sense the same energetic movement, but only a small number will recognize what they are actually experiencing. An even smaller group will respond in a way that permanently changes the direction of their lives. The difference is never the energy itself. The difference is the willingness to answer its call. Before we continue any further, there is something essential you must understand. This awakening was never designed to make you comfortable. The 77 portal does not exist to decorate your old beliefs with beautiful spiritual language while allowing you to remain exactly as you have always been. Its purpose is far more exact than that. Its energy searches with remarkable precision, bringing every hidden wound, every protected fear, and every carefully maintained illusion into full view. It shines light on the places where you make yourself smaller than you truly are, where hesitation replaces truth, and where you continue pretending not to recognize answers your soul has known all along. The version of yourself that survives by remaining hidden cannot cross into what waits beyond this threshold. That is why genuine preparation is not an optional spiritual exercise. It is the doorway itself. The universe is no longer politely asking for your attention. It is calling for your complete presence, and the only decision that truly matters is whether you will meet that invitation with conscious awareness or retreat into familiar resistance. Beneath everything happening around you lies an even deeper reality, one that cannot be measured by ordinary perception, but can absolutely be felt by anyone willing to become quiet enough to listen. Before this lifetime, before the identity you now answer to, Before the roles you learned to perform for the world, your soul carried an intention beyond words. It was an energetic agreement, a sacred design woven through purpose instead of language. Within that design existed specific moments when your path could dramatically shift through powerful checkpoints and spiritual gateways. The 7-7 portal is one of those predetermined moments. That explains why none of this feels random to you. It explains why these words seem strangely familiar, almost like remembering something instead of discovering it for the first time. Deep within you, an ancient memory has begun rising toward the surface. This experience is not about collecting new knowledge. It is about recovering wisdom your spirit has always carried. Once that remembrance awakens, returning to unconsciousness becomes impossible. Recognition always demands movement. It asks for choices that match what you now know. Many people prefer not to face that responsibility because comfort often feels easier than clarity. The portal will stand open before everyone, yet not everyone will choose to step across its threshold. Some individuals will pass through these days without sensing anything unusual. Others will briefly notice the shift, but quickly dismiss it as coincidence, imagination, or wishful thinking. There will also be those who feel the energy intensely and still decide not to respond, because true transformation always asks for courage. It asks you to release habits that feel secure simply because they have existed for so long. Remaining familiar becomes easier than becoming free. Those people will continue forward believing nothing extraordinary ever called their name. Yet your journey has already separated from that path. You remained here. You listened instead of turning away. You honored the pull instead of silencing it. That decision alone revealed something important about your purpose during this moment. As the opening of the portal approaches, another subtle change begins revealing itself through your everyday experience. Your relationship with time starts behaving differently. Minutes seem unusually long while entire days disappear before you understand where they went. Events accelerate, emotions deepen, and ordinary situations begin carrying unexpected weight. This is not simply a trick of perception. It reflects energetic acceleration. The field surrounding you becomes increasingly powerful, drawing unresolved experiences, hidden emotions, and forgotten patterns into your awareness with remarkable accuracy. Nothing emerges by accident. Everything surfacing now appears for one reason only. It is asking either to be released before you move forward or to accompany you into the next chapter of your life. That choice carries enormous significance because whatever crosses the threshold with you will not remain unchanged. It will become stronger. It will expand its influence. It will echo throughout the reality you are preparing to enter. This is precisely why conscious preparation is absolutely essential. Timing has always mattered, and your presence here before the portal fully opens is evidence that something within your journey is unfolding in alignment. There is profound power in becoming aware before transformation arrives. Awareness gives you the opportunity to adjust your direction, clear unnecessary burdens, restore your inner balance, and intentionally choose the energy you will carry across this threshold. You have arrived early enough to participate instead of merely reacting. Many people will only understand the importance of this moment after it belongs to the past, seeing everything clearly only through hindsight. Your position is different. You are standing before the gateway while possibility is still alive, while time still bends gently in your favor, while conscious choice remains available. Very few people recognize an opening before it appears. You have been given that opportunity, and from this point forward, everything is preparing to move into an entirely different chapter. Do not make the mistake of believing that preparation means waiting. It is not a quiet state where you sit back expecting powerful energy to reshape your life while you remain unchanged. It is not the repetition of uplifting words without allowing those words to become the way you live. It is not expecting certainty to arrive while avoiding the work that creates it. Real preparation demands intention. It asks for discipline. It asks for the courage to stand face to face with yourself without hiding behind comforting stories, familiar excuses, or carefully crafted illusions. The approaching 77 portal does not respond to appearances. It responds to authenticity. At this very moment, more than any external achievement or spiritual ritual, the universe is paying attention to one question alone. Are you willing to meet your own truth completely? Are you prepared to recognize every part of yourself, every burden you continue to carry, every belief you have outgrown, and every attachment that must be released before you move through the coming threshold? Everything that follows begins with this decision, because without honest self-recognition, no lasting transformation can take root. Before the portal fully arrives, there is an inner reality waiting for your attention, something your heart has already tried to reveal more than once. Perhaps you noticed it during quiet evenings when the noise of the world faded away. Perhaps it surfaced for only a moment before you distracted yourself with responsibility, routine, or another reason to postpone looking more closely. This is not the time for comfortable reflection that merely scratches the surface. This is the moment for complete honesty, the kind that removes every protective layer until only truth remains. Ask yourself what you have repeatedly avoided confronting, which realization continues returning to your awareness even though you keep walking around it instead of through it. The energy connected to the 77 portal will not allow avoidance to remain hidden. Whatever has been ignored will become stronger. Whatever has been postponed will demand greater attention. Instead of waiting for life to force the lesson upon you, choose to face it now while the choice is still yours. Sit quietly with what makes you uncomfortable. Give it a name. Allow yourself to experience every emotion connected to it without searching for distractions. The truth you willingly embrace today loses its power to control you tomorrow. Courage transforms what fear would otherwise magnify. Somewhere within your current life, there is also an illusion that has quietly consumed more of your energy than you may realize. It has survived because it does not announce itself as something dangerous. Instead, it disguises itself as ordinary routine, dependable stability, or even the comforting appearance of security. Yet beneath that familiar surface lives a steady misalignment between the person you are becoming and the circumstances you continue accepting. The approaching portal will illuminate that gap with unmistakable precision. What has remained subtle until now will become impossible to overlook if you insist on carrying it forward unchanged. This is why you must ask yourself a difficult but necessary question. In which areas of your life have you accepted less than what your soul already knows is possible? Where have you continued settling even though something inside you has clearly evolved beyond those limitations? Those spaces belong to an earlier version of your journey. They cannot accompany you into what comes next without creating unnecessary resistance. There is another layer of preparation that deserves your full attention. You have been carrying emotional weight that was never intended to remain with you forever. Pieces of unfinished conversations, endings that never received closure, disappointments that quietly echo beneath your daily awareness, all of them continue occupying space within your energetic field. Over time, you may have learned how to function despite them. You may even believe you have moved beyond them. Yet their influence remains present, shaping your reactions in ways so subtle they often escape notice. The 77 portal will not remove those emotional burdens on your behalf. Instead, whatever still exists within you will become amplified. That is why release matters so deeply. Not denial, not avoidance, not pretending everything is already healed. Genuine release asks you to experience emotions that have been waiting for your acknowledgement, allowing them to complete their movement instead of remaining trapped inside your inner world. Whatever continues living unresolved within your emotional landscape becomes the filter through which you experience every opportunity waiting on the other side of this threshold. There was once a season when holding tightly to certain relationships, familiar identities, repeating behaviors, or established patterns genuinely felt necessary. They offered comfort during uncertainty. They created the feeling of control when life seemed unpredictable. They became part of the structure that helped you survive. But survival and alignment are not always the same thing. As the portal draws closer, those same attachments naturally begin feeling heavier. Situations that once seemed manageable now leave you emotionally exhausted. Habits that once felt normal suddenly feel out of harmony with the person you are becoming. This growing discomfort is not random. It is evidence that your inner evolution has already begun. Continuing to cling to what is merely familiar will only increase the resistance you experience because the universe is no longer supporting the identity that required those attachments. It is steadily preparing you for the version of yourself waiting beyond them. There is still another step that cannot be overlooked. Throughout recent weeks and months, your energy has become scattered across countless directions without you fully recognizing how often it happened. Some of it disappeared into endless cycles of overthinking. Some of it became invested in situations and people that never returned the same level of presence or care. Some of it remained attached to circumstances that continuously depleted your spirit instead of strengthening it. Before the portal opens completely, you are being asked to reclaim that energy with intention. This is not symbolic language, it is a practical reality. Wherever your attention consistently flows, your life eventually follows. Your focus shapes your experience because attention itself carries tremendous energetic influence. Withdraw your awareness from everything that weakens your spirit. Stop feeding circumstances that continually drain your inner strength. Return your focus to the people, choices, and possibilities that nourish your alignment instead. The self that crosses this threshold must arrive whole rather than divided among distractions that no longer deserve your presence. Even while these words settle into your awareness, something inside you has already started changing. You may struggle to describe it logically, yet you can sense its movement. There is a quiet adjustment unfolding beneath conscious thought, almost as though scattered pieces of your inner world are naturally finding their proper place again. This is where information becomes recognition. These ideas no longer exist only outside of you. They begin awakening memories already living within your spirit. Once recognition takes root internally, your perspective cannot return to what it was before. Your decisions begin changing almost automatically. Your awareness grows sharper. You recognize with greater certainty what supports your growth and what quietly pulls you away from it. This is how authentic transformation always begins. It rarely announces itself with dramatic displays. Instead, it grows through unmistakable shifts inside your perception until your entire life naturally starts reflecting the change. As the portal approaches, clarity becomes one of your greatest sources of strength. Energy without intention drifts wherever unconscious habits direct it. But energy guided by conscious purpose begins shaping an entirely different future. This is why you must ask yourself, before crossing this threshold, exactly what you are choosing to step toward. Do not settle for vague hopes or undefined wishes. Be honest and specific. Which version of yourself are you ready to become? Which repeating patterns have completed their purpose and deserve to remain behind? Which reality reflects the deepest truth of who you are now? The 77 portal magnifies direction itself. If you refuse to choose your path consciously, old patterns will quietly choose it for you, carrying you forward into experiences you never truly intended to repeat. It would be easy to dismiss this as another opportunity for temporary reflection, another passing moment of spiritual awareness that fades as everyday life resumes. Yet this moment carries far greater significance because of where it exists within your journey. You are standing at a genuine turning point where seemingly small choices create consequences that continue unfolding long after this day is past. Every decision you make before the threshold echoes into the chapter that follows. This realization is not meant to create fear or unnecessary pressure. It exists to deepen your awareness. When you fully understand the importance of a moment, you naturally approach it with greater presence, greater intention, and greater alignment. Those qualities are exactly what this portal asks of you now. There is one more preparation waiting beyond this point. As the opening of the portal draws even closer, your own mind begins becoming a gateway within the greater gateway itself. The inner threshold where you ultimately decide which thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions will be allowed to take root inside you. As this threshold draws near, you cannot afford to let your inner dialogue unfold without intention. This is not a season for allowing every opinion, every fear, or every outside influence to settle inside your consciousness without question. Whatever enters your mind during this period does not simply pass through and disappear. It leaves an imprint. It quietly reshapes the landscape of your thinking and gradually becomes part of the reality you create. You may notice old doubts suddenly becoming more persistent, forgotten fears finding their voice again, or limiting stories you believed you had already outgrown attempting to return with surprising intensity. None of this is happening without purpose. What you are witnessing is the natural tension that appears whenever expansion begins pressing against resistance. This is the moment when discipline becomes one of your greatest strengths. Watch your thoughts carefully, but refuse to mistake them for your identity. Observe them without surrendering your power to them. Every thought does not deserve permission to remain. Every belief does not deserve a permanent place within you. The perspective you carry across the 77 portal will become the filter through which every opportunity, challenge, and revelation is experienced afterward. Choose that perspective with care because your inner world will determine how the outer world unfolds. There is another pattern that appears almost every time meaningful transformation approaches. Just before life changes direction, the volume of distraction always increases. Unexpected demands compete for your attention. Minor situations suddenly appear urgent. Endless interruptions seem determined to pull your awareness away from what truly matters. At first glance, these events may look important, but many of them exist only to scatter your focus. This is how misalignment often operates. It rarely confronts you directly. Instead, it quietly invites your attention away from your highest path until your energy becomes divided among countless unnecessary concerns. You may feel as though every direction is calling your name at once, leaving your concentration fractured and your spirit stretched too thin. If you are not fully awake to what is happening, you may mistake all of that noise for genuine importance. Yet not every voice deserves your attention. Not every demand deserves your response. Not everything that appears urgent actually serves your growth. This is why discernment becomes essential. Become intentional about where your awareness rests. Protect your focus with purpose. Allow your energy to move only toward what genuinely reflects your deepest alignment, because distraction has caused countless people to overlook opportunities that were quietly waiting for them all along. There is another preparation that deserves your complete trust. Your intuition is far more than an emotional reaction or passing impression. It is the inner guidance that has been accompanying you long before your logical mind learned to analyze every possibility. As the 77 portal approaches, that guidance naturally becomes stronger, clearer, and more accurate, but only when you create enough stillness to hear it. Many people have been conditioned to doubt their deepest knowing. They replace quiet certainty with fearful reasoning. They question what they already sense. They search endlessly for proof from the outside, even though the answer has already begun unfolding within them. This is the moment to reverse that lifelong habit. Honor the subtle impressions that arrive without explanation. Trust the quiet certainty that speaks without demanding evidence. Listen to the feeling that calmly points you toward one direction while gently pulling you away from another. Your intuition already recognizes what belongs in your future and what does not. The more deeply you strengthen that relationship now, the less you will depend upon external confirmation later. Instead of searching for direction after the portal opens, you will already recognize it because it has been growing inside you all along. Within you, there already exists a version of yourself that is completely prepared for what comes next. That part of you is ready to move forward without hesitation, ready to embrace alignment, ready to welcome the next chapter with confidence. Yet another part may still resist. It may question every step. It may continue reaching backward toward what is familiar simply because familiarity has always felt safer than uncertainty. This inner tension does not mean you are failing. It simply reveals that you are standing in the final space between your former identity and the person you are becoming. No one remains in that space forever. Eventually, a decision must be made, not through dramatic external action, but through quiet inner commitment. Which voice will guide your future? Which version of yourself will receive your loyalty? Which identity will you choose to embody each day? The 77 portal responds most powerfully to inner certainty rather than internal conflict. As your commitment becomes clearer, the movement through this transition becomes smoother, more natural, and more deeply aligned with your purpose. Understanding alone is never enough to transform a life. You can recognize every lesson, identify every repeating pattern, and understand every spiritual principle, yet remain exactly where you are if your daily choices continue reflecting an older version of yourself. This is why genuine alignment extends beyond thoughts and emotions into action. Every decision you make during this period matters. Every boundary you establish, every seer to strengthen, every step you choose to take, even the smallest action carries extraordinary significance because each one quietly communicates your commitment. Through your behavior, you show the universe that your awareness has become something more than intellectual understanding. You demonstrate that you are prepared to think differently, respond differently, and live differently. Embodiment is what transforms possibility into lived reality. As the day of July 6th approaches, you may begin experiencing an unfamiliar sense of instability. Foundations that once appeared completely dependable may suddenly feel uncertain. Emotions can surface without warning. Circumstances may seem less predictable than they once did. Beliefs you previously accepted without question might now invite deeper examination. Resist the temptation to interpret this as failure or regression. What you are experiencing is recalibration. Old structures are gradually loosening their hold because they are creating room for a new level of alignment to emerge. The space between what is ending and what is beginning often feels uncomfortable precisely because it has not yet become familiar. Yet that discomfort serves a purpose. A new chapter cannot fully arrive while your entire weight remains anchored in the previous one. If uncertainty begins surrounding you, meet it with calm instead of fear. Allow it to remind you that movement has already started and that transformation is unfolding even before every answer becomes visible. Your greatest strength during this entire process does not exist somewhere in your past, nor does it wait in some imagined future. It exists only in this present moment. Here is where your influence lives. Here is where your awareness becomes powerful. The mind will naturally attempt to pull your attention backward into stories that no longer define you or forward into possibilities that have not yet arrived. Neither destination offers real authority over your life. Presence does. When you remain fully present, you begin seeing circumstances without distortion. You respond with intention instead of habit. You recognize alignment while it is unfolding, instead of only understanding it afterward. Those conscious choices, repeated one moment after another, become the true preparation that carries you across the threshold. Presence is not the absence of action. It is active awareness expressed through every decision you make. Many people convince themselves that meaningful transformation still belongs somewhere far ahead, that true alignment remains distant, or that they must become someone entirely different before they are ready. That belief is only another illusion. The distance between who you are now and what you are becoming is far smaller than your fears would have you believe. It is smaller than your doubts continue insisting. It is even smaller than the limitations your previous experiences have taught you to expect. You are standing much closer to that next reality than you have allowed yourself to recognize. And every conscious choice you make before this portal opens brings you another step closer to fully becoming the person you have been preparing to remember. The simple fact that you have remained here until this moment says more than you may realize. You are not listening out of chance. You are not feeling this pull because you are beginning your journey. Every insight you have gathered, every challenge you have survived, every question that has quietly shaped your spirit has been leading you toward this exact point. You are no longer standing at the starting line. You are standing directly before a threshold that has been approaching you just as surely as you have been approaching it. What remains now is not endless preparation. What remains is the willingness to move forward with full awareness, carrying everything you have recognized with deliberate intention. These final moments before the 77 portal fully opens possess an energy unlike any other part of the process. There is a strange stillness surrounding them, yet within that stillness everything feels more vivid. Your awareness may become unusually sharp. Ordinary conversations may seem more revealing. Small emotions may carry unexpected depth. Even your thoughts may feel clearer, almost as though they are uncovering truths that had been hidden beneath the surface for a long time. This is not an accident. You are experiencing the final stage of energetic calibration. The universe is offering one last opportunity to notice what has always been present, but perhaps not fully acknowledged. Nothing entirely new is arriving during this phase. Instead, what already existed within your life is being illuminated with greater precision, allowing you to recognize every remaining place where healing, honesty, or release is still waiting. How you respond to this increased clarity will quietly determine the quality of your experience as you move through the portal itself. As you begin feeling more aligned, do not be surprised if something unexpected suddenly emerges. Just when confidence begins replacing uncertainty, familiar patterns may unexpectedly return. Old habits that seemed resolved may briefly ask for your attention again. Thoughts you believed had lost their influence may attempt to reclaim space within your mind. Even people or situations connected to an earlier chapter of your life may reappear with surprising timing. Resist the temptation to interpret this as failure. It is not evidence that you are moving backward. It is evidence that your alignment is becoming stronger. This is the final opportunity to respond consciously where you once reacted automatically. Your past is not returning because it still owns you. It is appearing one final time so you may release it with complete awareness instead of unfinished attachment. The decision you make now determines whether those patterns continue traveling beside you or finally remain where they belong, behind you. The 77 portal should never be understood as merely a date marked on a calendar. Long before the moment of its full opening, its energetic field begins surrounding those who are receptive to it. If your sensitivity has been growing, you have probably already noticed its presence. Perhaps it feels like gentle pressure beneath the surface of your daily life. Perhaps it resembles an invisible invitation pulling your attention towards something you cannot yet fully explain. Perhaps it is simply the unmistakable feeling that unseen pieces are quietly arranging themselves beyond what your eyes can observe. That is the threshold taking form around you. It is not something existing far away from your experience. It is already interacting with your awareness, responding continuously to your inner state, your willingness to align, and your readiness to receive what comes next. As your inner harmony deepens, your ability to sense this energetic movement naturally becomes stronger. This is why trust now becomes indispensable. You may not yet possess visible proof of everything unfolding around you, but your deeper awareness already recognizes that the process is real. When the 77 portal reaches its fullest expression, do not expect it to arrive through spectacular external events or unmistakable signs visible to everyone. Its greatest movement takes place within. You may suddenly experience a profound shift in perception. You may discover a level of clarity that feels strangely familiar, as though you have remembered something your soul has always known, instead of learning something completely new. Some people may feel remarkably light, deeply centered, and unusually focused. Others may experience the sensation that every layer of their inner world is being reorganized all at once, creating temporary intensity before a greater balance emerges. Neither experience is more correct than the other. Both belong to the same unfolding process because the portal does not impose one identical outcome upon everyone. Instead, it magnifies the condition you bring into it and accelerates the alignment that is already developing within you, moving your evolution forward with remarkable precision. There is one companion that cannot remain untouched as you cross this threshold, and that companion is fear. Fear is not rejected by the portal, nor is it punished. Yet it cannot continue existing in exactly the same form within the frequency you're entering. Whatever fear remains hidden will naturally become more visible. Whatever anxiety has been buried will ask for acknowledgement instead of silence. This is precisely why courage becomes essential. Courage has never required the complete absence of fear. True courage appears when you continue walking despite uncertainty, trusting the wisdom of your inner alignment even while complete answers remain beyond your sight. The path ahead asks for a version of you willing to move because you recognize truth within yourself, not because every external circumstance has already guaranteed the outcome. At some point, perhaps sooner than you expect, a quiet yet unmistakable moment will arrive. It will not necessarily announce itself through dramatic events. Instead, it may appear as a gentle certainty settling peacefully inside your awareness. Without effort, you will realize something has shifted. Preparation has become movement, waiting has become participation, the crossing has already occurred. In that instant, your spirit will recognize the difference. You will feel steadier. You will trust yourself more naturally. You will sense a deeper alignment that no longer depends upon constant reassurance. Everything you have confronted throughout this journey, every lesson you accepted, every attachment you released, every truth you embraced, begins weaving itself into one unified experience. From that point forward, your path gradually becomes easier to recognize, because it is no longer guided primarily by confusion or fear. It is guided by the alignment you consciously chose before the threshold was crossed. By the time you arrive there, another truth quietly reveals itself. The person who first entered this journey no longer exists in quite the same way. Your surroundings may appear remarkably similar, and many external circumstances may not have changed overnight. Yet within you, something undeniable has moved. Your awareness has expanded beyond its previous limits. Your understanding has deepened. Passions that once controlled you without your knowledge have now been brought into conscious view. That realization alone transforms everything, because once genuine clarity enters your life, it cannot simply disappear. You cannot unknow what your soul has already recognized. You cannot convincingly return to a state of unconsciousness after truth has become visible. This is where your real strength begins stabilizing, not through hopeful expectations about the future, but through quiet confidence in what you now know to be real within yourself. It may be tempting to believe this marks the conclusion of a long process, the final page of an important chapter. Yet what stands before you is not an ending at all. The portal itself is not the destination you have been moving toward. It is the doorway that allows an entirely new chapter to begin. Everything waiting beyond it will be influenced by what you choose to carry across, by the quality of your alignment, by the awareness you have cultivated, and by the truth you have chosen to embody. The future unfolds from those foundations with intention rather than accident. Even if the entire path remains hidden from view, its direction will become unmistakably clear within your heart, and that quiet certainty is more than enough to guide your next steps. Now, standing fully present within this moment, there remains only one final invitation. Trust. Trust the wisdom that has been quietly unfolding inside you. Trust every realization that has expanded your awareness. Trust the unseen process that has patiently arranged every experience necessary to bring you here. None of these moments have existed without purpose. Every challenge, every awakening, every moment of unmistakable clarity has been part of a much larger movement leading you toward this threshold. The portal is opening. The energetic landscape is changing. The direction before you is becoming easier to recognize, and you have prepared yourself to meet it consciously. Before you continue into what follows, anchor this experience deeply within yourself. Let it become more than an inspiring idea or a temporary emotion. Allow it to become a personal commitment, a conscious promise that you will remain awake, remain aligned, and continue choosing growth even when growth asks something difficult of you. If these words have genuinely spoken to something within your spirit, respond in a way that reflects that recognition. Leave your support through a like, share your presence in the comments, and subscribe not out of routine, but as a personal declaration that you are choosing to remain connected to this awareness, this frequency, and this unfolding path. The moment has arrived. Whether others notice it or overlook it, whether they acknowledge it or dismiss it, the 77 portal is opening. The difference is that you are not arriving without preparation. You have moved intentionally through each stage of this process. You have faced what demanded your attention. You have released what no longer belongs to your future. You have chosen alignment where it was required. As the threshold activates and the energy continues shifting, you are not walking into what comes next through uncertainty alone. You are entering it consciously, and that single difference has the power to reshape everything that follows. Yet remember one final truth above all others. Alignment has never been limited to one extraordinary day or one powerful spiritual experience. It is a living practice. It is a discipline renewed through every choice you make. It is a way of perceiving, responding, and living that must continue long after the portal is opened, if you truly intend to embody everything this moment has made possible.